I get the philosophy behind what you're saying. Unfortunately for us, we say we have a parliament on paper. But the reality of the matter is that, I mean, our parliament is also very partisan in terms of how you do your work. You know, so that's what I'm saying. I get where you're coming, which is parliament is the protector of the purse. And so parliament, there's nothing wrong with parliament, determines how much we'll get and so on and so forth. I get all of that. But if the parliament we have is not sort of predisposed, or it is not in alignment with whoever even the Chief Justice is, you're in trouble.
Yeah, but I believe from
you get it?
Later.
So it is the reason why, for instance, the Speaker of Parliament, you remember when this issue between the judiciary and the
Speaker.
And that sort of compelled the Speaker of Parliament to say that, look, yes, don't annoy us, because if you annoy us, we'll make you very uncomfortable. You know, you see, for me, I think that the crafters of the Constitution had very good intentions. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that in terms of how we are practicing the coordinating powers of the arms of government, we appear to have a bit of a challenge, because you see, as Justice Jamefe said, the fact that Parliament pays them has also made them to some extent subservient to what Parliament does. So, for instance, if somebody from Parliament, if Parliament wants something done by the judiciary, they may have a challenge to say they won't do it, because you will come back to us, because we will determine how much you are paid, and so on and so forth. I don't want to get a point.
I get the point.
So it's the subservient nature of the way the arms of government are interrelating. It's where Justice Jamefe is coming from.
Yeah, I agree. But this comes to separation of powers. But what
you see, is that true? So you see, is that true separation of powers?
You can't get 100% separation of powers anywhere, because somebody has to check somebody.
Someone,
and it's all about the system you put in place and the integrity of the system. And I think if you come to the committee level, the Judicial Committee of Parliament, where these matters are discussed extensively, they are more often than not based on the justification that you make. And many a times it is even Parliament that fights for increments in some of these matters. Because once you come and you explain, Parliament is able to make a case for even an increment in the things that you've brought. But let me end with...
But don't you think it depends largely sometimes also on the posture of the Chief Justice?
You see, you may have just one or two instances.
If the majority in Parliament feel that the Chief Justice is been very high-handed on their political party, sometimes there's a bit of a difficulty in playing.
You can anticipate, but I think these are far-fetched. If you go into that trajectory, then we would Let me end with my last issue on the two-term question and limit. You know, this has become a very topical issue in recent days, whether a person who has served one term, gone and come back, would have the opportunity to serve another 2 terms, whether the 2 term is consecutive or 2 terms implicita. I think the justices have been very clear in their mind, coming that 2 terms mean 2 terms. It is important we put this across to the good people of Ghana, that the constitutional provision is for anybody who serves as president to serve maximum of 2 terms, whether it is conservative or it is concurrent or not. That is
2 terms is 2 terms.
2 terms is 2 terms. So that as we proceed to our next, because see, we've had countries around us who have varied their constitutional provision and has led to chaos. Where we've got into, I don't think President Mahama, in his own wisdom, even within the NDC, would contemplate that, let me go and test, because I brought people to the Supreme Court, let me go and test whether I can get another constitutional extension of term. I think that is far-fetched, but it's important that these questions are asked so that people will have a clearer frame of mind, so we build the democracy that we want. I think I'll defer the rest to my colleague.
Okay.
I think starting from where you just ended, I think for the...
Oh, in fact, sorry, before you come in.
Yes.
There's another important issue that Jamefe talked about. I'm surprised that it has escaped you. The president is not in town, vice president is not in town, speaker of parliament is not in town. What happens? he you know, he made some comments on that as well.
Yeah.
And if you look at today's Ghanaian Times, he talked about it as well. He said as to whether the speaker should be sworn in the absence of the president. Swear the speaker in, because the speaker is supposed to be sworn in by the chief justice, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So he said as to whether the speaker should be sworn in as absence of the president and vice president, he cannot make any explicit comment, but says whatever the Constitution prescribes must be adhered to, adding that the law is the law. He said there must be a lacuna explaining that if the president is away, the vice, the speaker, and the chief justice can act in order to fill the vacuum, adding that the state must run, but you have to know the kinds of decisions to make. But so who swears the chief justice in? Because she swears the people in.
So I completely disagree with the opinion of my learned senior Chamefe on this one. Because see, the Constitution is clear.
Yes.
The president, if the president is not there, the vice president. If the vice president is not there, the speaker is sworn in.
Yes, by the chief justice.
By the chief justice. It ends there.
This time, the speaker wasn't
it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. Because
but life happens.
No.
Life happens.
Then if you
the
bring in
speaker
the chief justice,
wasn't well.
If you bring in the chief justice, in the absence of the chief justice, what happens? So at any point in time, if the president knows that the vice president is unavailable, and the speaker is also unwell, if the president travels, he has to come in before the speaker flows out. There shouldn't be a situation where you get the president, the vice president, and the speaker out of the jurisdiction, because there's always coordination. What's the president doing outside?
If the three of them are okay, hold on. If the these three important people are indisposed, what happens?
Indisposed in which way?
It could be ill health, could be anything.
No. So
incapacitated.
Then there's a constitutional provision. If the president is indisposed, okay, in terms of ill health, he would have been in the jurisdiction. Unless you say he's flown out.
Yes, he's flown out.
The vice president is also flown out.
Yes.
The speaker
is flown out.
Parliament is also
it's a possibility. Let's not say there's a possibility.
So when you bring in the chief justice, and the chief justice is also flown out,
what happens?
Yes.
Has the Constitution contemplated it?
No. So that is why I'm saying, I'm of the candid opinion that first and foremost, don't outstretch this already existing provision of the president, the vice, and the speaker. Because anytime these three happens, then there would be a Supreme Court or a Chief Justice to make a determination on the matter. Or let's make a constitutional provision in the review mechanisms that we are doing to cure any potential mistake. But the argument is, under no circumstance should we have the president, the vice president,
all things being equal.
And
one of them must always be in touch.
And it was properly crafted, because if you bring the justices in, if you bring the chief justice in, the chief justice is not an elected representative.
True.
So on what basis is he coming to perform the function? He cannot. You cannot be a judge.
So Justice Jambepe talks about
judicial.
Justice Jambepe talks about limited decisions. That's how he describes it. Limited. We must agree. What can the Chief Justice decisions that the Chief Justice can take and what they cannot take?
No, exactly my point again.
It's still a bit chaotic.
It's very chaotic and outstretched. And then he also mentioned the occasion where we should at what point should we swear in the speaker? Whether if the president travels for 2 days or he's going for 1 day, you still need to swear in the speaker. And he thought this is something that we shouldn't swear in the speaker. I disagree. The reason why you swear in the speaker to act as president is because the speaker is not part of the executive arm. He sits as head of the legislature. And now you are adding an additional responsibility for him to act as an executive president. Then, if you don't swear him in, maybe the president said, I'm going for 1 day. But for exigencies or some difficulty, he doesn't come the next day as planned. And it takes him 3 days. Are you going to now be adding on an additional day? So that burden of swearing in to cure that responsibility for the speaker should be available, even if it is for 24 hours. so that in the event where the president extends his days, you don't create another constitutional
I get
crisis.
it. Okay.